So I have that long talk about how do you do scientific improvement to your video game playing, right? Getting good at these games in a way that's very systematic. Well, I have a really good example, I think, that came from uh, recent revelations I've had from learning about one jab in Tekken. And I want to share it with you how I've been thinking about it so that you can also try this as well in a very tangible way. So here's what I've been doing, what has happened. I learned, we've all known, I think, about that famous video from Speed Kicks where he talks about how do you use one jab and how Knee uses it, and he analyzes it and tells you all the cool things that happens because of it. And 5DX also did the same thing on Speed Kicks' video. And a lot of folks have talked about this situation, so I wanted to understand it. And I watched the videos and saw, okay, you do a jab and you see how they react. Great, cool, awesome. But how do they react? And how do I handle their different reactions? And when I tried it initially, I found, okay, let me just try jabbing people in matches and see what happens. Well, suddenly I found out it didn't work so well because people either weren't close enough for me to jab them, or they were ducking, or they were just too far away. So first I had to figure out, all right, how close can I be to actually use this one jab? So the first step in this scientific journey of experimentation is, okay, well, I want to do this tactic. I know it's a good tactic because the best players use it. That's really important, that you know the tactic's valid. Those are the things that are worth spending extra time on, really understanding. Because if it's not a valid tactic, then there's no point really wasting your energy on it. But if you know it's real, you know it works, then it's worth figuring it out. Why does it work? How does it work? And you can be told how something works, but really to make it your own, which is what you have to do eventually, you got to understand why it works. So I'm doing these jabs. I figure out eventually, all right, I got to be this close to do it. Cool. So I figure out the range, and now I'm jabbing people properly. And the next step is, all right, so what happens to my opponent when I jab them? I'm going to present this, and I'm doing this in ranked mode. So players are trying to win because they want those points. People care so much about those points, right? So I'm doing it in a situation where they're going to really want to beat me. I did it a few times in these tournament sets too that I've been competing in once in a while. Just see how they handle it too, because there's a little more pressure and they're more inclined to do things that are stronger. So, what did I find? Well, some players like to duck when you do jabs. So the response to me running up on them and jabbing is to just duck. Some players just keep backdashing. Other players start to step me. Other players will just hold down and press up and hold down, press up. So they use a lot of different approaches to kind of handle it. So what you're doing, what I'm doing, and what I'm encouraging you to do if you're trying to use this more systematic approach to getting better at these games, is you want to create experiments for your techniques, for your strategies, and you want to kind of control them. So you're going to have to do more or less the same thing a lot against a lot of different players. So maybe you'll spend one round, or maybe half your life in one round, or even a quarter of your life in one round, where you're just going to keep trying the same thing and see, all right, what does this person want to do? What does this behavior from me induce my opponent to want to try and do in response to it? That's really important. You really, really have to understand what your actions encourage your opponent to do. And the reason why you want to do this over many opponents is because the more opponents who do the same thing in response to your action, that lets you know, oh, okay, great. I don't need to know why this is working, but I do need to know this is how most players react to the situation, which tended to be people tend to duck. I found people ducked a lot, who didn't just die to me jabbing them. Some players just died, and that's, they died. But the players who didn't die to it, those are the ones we want to worry about. And they ducked. So the next thing I started doing is saying, all right, well, if I know they're going to duck, what if I do jab and then do a mid? So I'll do a jab, they block it, and I do a mid afterwards. Now that's where things got interesting. Some players would hit a button, and I get a counter hit, and I, get a counter hit into a thing. Other players would keep backdashing and block it. Other players would duck, but they wouldn't press a button. And other players would sidestep me. So now I need a different set of situations and solutions to that. And keep in mind that now that I've done a jab and they've blocked it, there's a little bit of push block there. So I don't have the same options that I had earlier. So this is kind of how you set the problem up. This is how you are systematic in your improvement. This is what I mean by you need to be very specific about what you're doing and what your opponent's doing in response to it. And you really got to understand why what you're doing is working, in the sense that, oh, I do a jab and then I do another jab, they're getting hit. How are they getting hit? What are they doing? They're pressing a button? Are they not guarding? Are they trying to evade me and I'm counting hitting them because they did something they shouldn't have done? Okay, cool. I want to know that so I can explore that more and build off of it. Here's the cool thing that happened. So I go back to Virtual Fighter and I play that game and find out that I can use the same kind of thing in Virtual Fighter too. When I jab somebody, even though I'm hit, I can backdash, I can run away, I can do the same kind of spacing as Tekken, but in Virtual Fighter, it's a little more annoying for players who are used to you always using your positive frames. If you back off when you're plus, suddenly you've just opened up a whole range of options to yourself, and you've actually put a lot of pressure on the opponent, because now they got to decide, am I going to chase this person down or am I going to back off and run? And if I let them run, how am I ever going to hit them? Because they're just, I can't hit this person. It's really frustrating. And I felt myself leveling up as I realized that this jab that I figured out really a little bit more of using it in Tekken, in Virtual Fighter, I can use the same concept of I'm plus, I'm relatively safe, and instead of pushing my advantage, I can just back off. I can space you. And then use a jab or an elbow to counter you when I think you're going to try and chase me down. And then I have more advantage, and then I can run a stronger mix-up. That's basically the essence of it, and that seems to be how you do it in Tekken as well. I haven't quite figured out how to use a stronger mix-up yet in Tekken after I get those hits, which is what I'm still figuring out. But in Virtual Fighter, I do have a better sense of that. And I feel how my mix-ups are scarier now in that game, because I'm opening up my opponent to taking more damage in situations where typically I would have to take some risk too. Like if I decide to attack my opponent when I'm plus in Virtual Fighter, that always carries a sense of risk. Even though it's my turn, I can still get blown up for it. But now I can be like, you know what? I'm just going to back off a lot because I think you might do something. Or maybe I don't even know what you're going to do, but I just don't feel like making the read right now. I'm just going to chill out. And if it frustrates you that I'm chilling out, maybe you'll press a button and maybe you're going to attack at a turn, and suddenly I get free damage. That's awesome. And I didn't do much work at all. I just backed off. Again, that is awesome. We like being able to back off and just mess people up for doing nothing. So, that's an example of what I'm talking about, of this systematic approach, this scientific systematic approach. Basically, you want to make experiments for yourself. And then as you do the experiment, you really figure out, well, why is this working? How is my opponent going to respond? And how do I create counters to their responses once I know what's going to happen? That's the whole game. That's the whole approach. And you just keep doing that. You keep building and building and building, and you're layering on top of it. And eventually, you'll have all the layers. And then you get to play more mind games. Once you find that the layers kind of end, that's when the mind games become more important. And then it becomes a matter of, okay, what do I think this person's going to do? What do I think they're going to do? And how can I counter it maximally to stop what they're going to do? Spacing is a true foundation in many fighters. I'm the same in Mortal Kombat 1 with a safe attack and making a decision on the next option. You mean Lei Mei? Yeah, this concept is not unique to Tekken at all. It's a general fighting game thing. And it's kind of hard to learn it because every move is different. Every single move is different in every game. So you really have to, I find, go one move at a time. And why not start with the fastest move that people say it's good? Like a one jab. Or a jab in Street Fighter, or a jab in Virtual Fighter. Jab is generally a good move. So it behooves one to learn how to use it well. I'm sure you have your moves that you think are going to be good to use for this too. What moves might you try to utilize to build some experiments on? What kind of things are you looking for? What's in your lab? The lab doesn't just mean training mode. It also means in the fight, in the match. You're labbing every time you fight someone if you're doing it with intention. So with that, we're going to end that little bit here. And I hope you have been illuminated in some degree on a tactic you might be able to use to kind of keep getting stronger, because I'm really excited that I was able to transfer something I'm learning from Tekken in about a month, a little over a month of playing this game, and already see gains in Virtual Fighter. I wasn't expecting the gains to come that soon, but they are. And it's motivating me to keep getting better at Tekken because I can see where I am at right now in Tekken, the skills that I need to do to get better, where I am now in Tekken, will pay exponential returns for me in Virtual Fighter. They are exactly the skills that I'm currently working on in Virtual Fighter are what I have to get better at in Tekken right now. Ducking highs, whiff punishing, spacing better, opening up my opponent without using frame traps. Because I'm finding I get getting blown up by trying to frame trap people, which still kind of breaks my brain a little bit because I'm just not used to that. I'm like, why are you pressing a button there? Why would you do that? Why? What they do. It hurts me inside a little bit every single time. Every time.